I think we have an opportunity now to start to define really what it means to be a living man or woman, which is what consciousness is, which is about really more about what our vocation is, what our divine purpose is while we're here on this planet. And when we do that, the doors open up to amazing opportunities.
Great day, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Jim Gale Show. We're extremely excited to have everyone here today. Thank you again for tuning in. We got a little bit of a different lineup here today. Jim is actually doing some traveling, so we brought in one of our incredible teammates, Mr. Michael Hoffman. Michael, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great, brother Matt. How you doing?
I'm doing awesome, too. How's everything in the off-grid homestead in Montana?
It is going beautiful. I'm actually pretty surprised. A lot of our neighbors are all done for the season. The frost damage took out their squash, their tomatoes, and somehow our garden is still rocking, still doing it. We're getting harvests every day. So Amazing. We'll see how long I can keep it going for.
Those permaculture principles are living up to the test.
It would appear so. It's amazing to see it in action. I guess they're not tucking their plants into a thick enough bed of mulch. Keep them warm.
Yeah. And we've got an incredible guest with us today, someone we're very grateful to have on. I know he's got a lot of things going in the freedom movement and helping people really grow towards a new, better way going forward. Mike Winter, how you doing, my friend?
Hey, Michael and Matt. Such a pleasure to be with you guys. Bum Jim's not here, but I've got to hang out with Jim in person many times at many events. So I'm stoked to be meeting you guys and diving into whatever you want to talk about today. I do a lot of different things. I'm up here in the Six Rivers National Forest. We have an off-grid permaculture farm at Alpha Vedic, where we grow teas for our products that we sell on alphavedic.com. And we do a weekly podcast called Alpha Cast with Dr. Bear Paul Lando. I'm also founder of Cordal, which we could just discuss a little bit today that you guys have interfaced with, which is a new decentralized network system for building the new internet. And also am a founder of Music in Sky, which is a sovereignty, freedom, community-based festival based around art and freedom of expression. And we are very, very pleased to have Jim there this year to talk about food forest abundance. So yeah, wherever you guys want to take the conversation.
Sure sounds like you're a leader in this freedom movement, my friend.
Well, I love freedom. I think that's the sort of the unifying aesthetic behind everything I do. I've always been somebody who has been very much an outlier. I always felt kind of like a bit of not a reject, but not really fitting in with society since I was very young. And so, I've just been very stubborn with wanting to be free my whole life. And I guess I was built for this time. In where it's becoming more and more important than ever to stand up for our rights and not be a coward.
Yes.
And so, I do it through creativity. I feel like that is an empowering way to motivate people to be free, is to define what their hero's journey is through their creative endeavors that get them off in their life, and then do that out of service to their fellow brothers and sisters. And I think it's a great model to follow, and hopefully it inspires others to figure out what they want to do in their world and then start doing it to inspire others. And that's just like the network effect. It's been great. It's been a great ride since I became more public in about 2018, talking about all sorts of elements of digital sovereignty, freedom on the digital space, using like blockchain technology and open source technology. And then, of course, tying that into nature and to health and wellness and everything we do at Alpha Vedic. So, full spectrum solutions coming from me and our community.
Amazing. One thing you said, well, a number of things stood out there, but one that I really want to touch on first is using creativity to bring out freedom. Can you go into that a little bit more? Because it definitely makes a lot of logical sense, helping people unlock that creative genius inside them and what that means now as they do that to bring freedom in their own lives.
Yeah, I think, traditionally over the 20th century, modern man kind of got locked into this mechanization. It was like the 20th century was really, I think one of the defining aspects of it was the sort of machinery of man, like mechanizing everything about man, right? And so we unfortunately got put into this trap of sort of this idea of, from the day we're born, being ushered into the world with our birth certificate, to going into state-controlled schools, into defining what we're going to be by some sort of counselor, getting ushered into a college or university, or, actually more beneficial, hopefully a trade at least, but then not really finding your vocation or your passion or your creative desires. It was more about the machine, where you're going in the machine, right? To then get that 401k and the retirement plan, and to live that quote unquote dream, right? Of suburbia dream of having 2 cars and your 2-week vacation. And that mechanization, we've seen where that's taken us through globalization and through the debt-based system. It's really been enslavement. And so really, I think we have an opportunity now to start to define really what it means to be a living man or woman, which is what consciousness is, which is really more about what our vocation is, what our divine purpose is while we're here on this planet. And when we do that, the doors open up to amazing opportunities, right? Universal law are what controls what this realm is. And when you understand like the laws of attraction, laws of manifestation, and you're doing that through your creative arts, then opportunities arise everywhere, and your life is just full of wonders and pleasure and opulence. And if you base that on serving your fellow men and women, and this idea of giving and giving more, as nature really works, and following nature's path and what nature shows us, then we can live in abundance, we can live in prosperity, and we can live in peace and harmony, and live in this sort of private, neutral world of happiness. So that's why I stress the creative side, because I feel like every one of us has a creative sort of role to play in our life's purpose, in our mission. So I'm a huge proponent of entrepreneurialism. I believe entrepreneurialism is a means for us to get out of a lot of the problems we have right now. Finding the sort of truth and bravery that it takes to step out on your own is extremely important. And that's a huge aspect of being free, is understanding like, hey, I don't have to go, rely on some official or some expert or some massive corporation to provide me with security. I can do that myself. And when I do that, actually, I'm going to reap the rewards much more than if I'm, going through this old mechanization process that used to be the old way of what success is.
So is the systems that are around us designed to steal that spark? And I know the answer, but what are your thoughts on that? Is that 100% put together this way to tell us we're not as powerful as we think?
All you have to do is look at the mainstream school system. There's a reason why it's free, and there's a reason why you're forced to go. Right? In the United States, you have to go to school. I'm sure in Canada, most West, you have to go to school, or literally they'll come and take your kids away. It was even very problematic to do homeschooling in a lot of countries in Europe and places. There's a reason why. It comes back to the old Prussian system they took in the 1800s, which was to literally put us into the machine, to literally create the cogs in the wheel. So yes, one aspect of that, and you could say that's from market dynamics, or that is from a top-down system. But an aspect of that is that it sucks the creativity out of every child in that school, unless you're fortunate enough to either have the wherewithal and the strength to get past that, or you have parents that took you out of that system, or you happen to go to maybe an art school or something, a place where you're fostered to be able to find your creativity. I myself went to Catholic private school most of my formative years. So I did have a classical education in that sense, but still a lot of my creative desires were sucked out of me for sure. And that's why I was a rebel at school. Even though I did pretty good at school, I was often getting in trouble because I would straight up call out the teachers in class for their nonsense and for their being such hypocrites. But yeah, if you look at the school system, I think that's the answer. It's obvious, right?
Yeah.
It's designed to crush our free creative soul's purpose.
Yeah. And they do it extremely effectively.
Oh, they've got it's so efficient now with their processes and their systems that I think, though, because it's centralized, because it's anti-nature, while they do it effectively, it's not. You can also see how the cracks are coming through everywhere. I mean,
yes.
The system is breaking down everywhere we look.
Yeah,
right?
It is.
So So it has to do with centralization, has to do with defying natural law, and it has to do with also the fact that humanity is more connected than ever, at least in known history, thanks to, the internet and these other sort of systems that arose in reaction to the mechanization of the 20th century, to where now I think we are having these parallel movements erupting because people are fed up. They've seen the generational sort of malaise or the depression and everything that's come from this fake dream, this debt dream of Western society, of modernism, this like secular concept of us, sort of being part of the machine so that we can have this linear evolution supposedly towards greatness. When we understand, as someone who works in nature, that's not how nature works. Nature isn't linear. Nature is fractal. Nature is ups and downs. It's cycles, right? The year doesn't just keep going like this. We have summer, then fall, then winter, then spring. Everything's in cycles, right? So I think that the system's fracturing, the system's collapsing in many ways. I know Jim would agree with this.
Yep.
And so I think that's why we had, I don't know if I'm allowed to say certain words on here, but the whole CV, Corona, crowning nonsense, I think was a systemic design to try to thwart that collapse. And move us into, of course, the technological sort of simulacrum of the metaverse. What we're facing right now is a bifurcation of society. We're facing essentially those who are going to keep going along with the mechanization protocol into now out of the physical mechanization into the digital version, and those that are saying we've had enough, we want to be free.
Well, it's interesting because the efficacy of this system historically, and I think why it's breaking at the seams, but it was effective in the past because they have kind of usurped nature, right? And inverted it and perverted it in many ways. And I was thinking about it the other day. It's very much like it's kind of the permaculture of evil, right? They were stacking functions against people using one control system to serve so many different purposes. But the further and further you get from nature, which is where we're finding ourselves today, as you just said, the transhumanism, the digitization of our biology, it's just going to break at the seams. There's just no way.
It was a Ponzi scheme. And so we have to understand that the direct relationship between the money system, right, the debt system, and the overall societal state systems, right, the crony capitalism and all that. But it was a Ponzi scheme. It worked as long as new suckers kept buying into it. And the debt grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. So then we're talking about, it's like, doesn't even seem like it can be real anymore. Trillions and trillions of debt, right? And of course, that requires stripping resources from third world countries, and it requires war. The fiat dollar is powered by war. It's powered by literally people dying. So I think now it's like it got to the point where you can only run a Ponzi scheme for so long until nobody wants to opt in anymore. And we're getting to the point now where that Ponzi scheme is fracturing because less and less people want to be a part of it, less and less suckers out there, thanks to the spreading of information. We are in the informational age now. And so it's a question of how we're going to use that information. How can we make that informational equitable? How can we make that information private? And how can we protect ourselves in this age? Because now data is what runs data is the base infrastructure for all value in the digital age. So how can we ensure that data is sovereign, is respectful to sovereign individuals? And how can we make sure that data is not being used against us, or that we're not opting in for that data to be used against us, which is what's happening right now. So everything's an offer in the public system. And it's just about waking up to understand how we want to accept and work with those offers.
And you see the governments around the world rushing to get control of the internet, control censorship, and they're, under the guise of misinformation and protecting your citizens and this and that and the other thing. They're trying to pass all these bills that give them control. So in Canada, for example, right now, they're working on passing things that will make sure that there's more Canadian content. Like that's how they're kind of slipping it, right? So it's under the guise of ensuring Canadians have the right to be putting out their information, but we know when you read through some of the finer print, what they got there ultimately is internet censorship bill. That's 100% what they're trying to do. So they can now regulate what I say online, which obviously freedom of speech is one of the most important things, because if we don't protect that, and we're already, you can tell there's a lot of people who are okay giving that shit up, right? They're afraid to post certain things because of, and then they get the freedom of speech nailed. Then it's freedom of thought, right? And they're already coming after your thoughts. So we got two of these major things that are all about individual, about you being free to control your own mind and what you want to say, what you want to think, but they're coming after it hard. So what kind of things, and you're working on some of it with Cordal, what kind of things are available today? And what do you see as far as how we can prevent this takeover by them and give us that power to keep our freedom of speech, freedom of thought, et cetera?
Yeah. Great question. And so true that essentially for me, the major sort of mentality and is the number one principle for me is the non-aggression principle, right? In a way, I am an anarchist in that I understand that individual rights should supersede anything else, but those individual rights are based on the non-aggression principle, number one. That's the number one thing. In other words, I do no harm to anyone, anything, the planet. That actually even supersedes private property rights in a sense that, and this is maybe you guys would understand this. Well, I know you understand this as being stewards of the land, right? That even, yes, private property rights are extremely important, but that doesn't mean you could dump a bunch of toxic waste on your own property. You are doing harm. Right? So as long as we are adherent to that number one principle, do no harm, and we're waving the white flag of neutrality amongst our brothers and sisters, and we're serving each other, then we can build equitable systems. And that's what Cordal is all about. Cordal is about building a parallel system that's completely separate from the World Wide Web, which is, how are they pulling off the censorship right now? How are they pulling it off? They're pulling it off by using corporations, right? Yeah. That it's a neo-fascism. They're using corporations to actually set the policies of censorship. The fact checkers are orgs and third-party entities that are deciding or being the arbiters of truth, right? The government can't do this, right? It cannot do this because the government, well, one, they're way too inefficient. And two, it's just way easier, and it's way easier for them to use the corporations. But there's specific natural law in play in terms of free will, where they know they can get into a lot of trouble if they start to go down that path towards tyranny. It's going to erupt in revolution, and it always does. So they're smart. They figured out, like, the best thing to do is to have everyone love their tyranny, love their enslavement, right? Yeah. So you do that by providing very convenient windows into whatever the culture says is cool. So for instance, at Instagram, when you sign up to Instagram, the terms and conditions basically say they'll take your data and use it for whatever the hell they want. People don't read those terms and conditions. People just want to get in and share their stories and show how cool they are snowboarding in Whistler, right? So I've been very smart in their slow sort of like crawl towards complete tyranny by playing into our own desires and our own sort of moral qualms, or our own like weakness in terms of what, what we want to be in our life and how we connect with each other. So Cordal, the idea with Cordal is it's like all going to first principles that were originated out of the cypherpunk movement, out of the anarchist movement, which was pure decentralization, pure person to person, and freedom of each individual to decide what they want to do with their sovereign digital footprint based upon the no harm principle, right? Based on I can do anything I want as long as I'm not harming anyone else. Okay. So that is the core principle behind it. It's like the anarchy principle. So how are we implementing that? So essentially, Cordal is a built from the ground up open source platform that does not engage in any way with the public corporate world. So there's no patents, there's no corporation, there's no licensing, there's no trademarking, right? It's just living men and women who have come together in an open source format to create code to allow for individuals to connect in a totally separate network, right? That's using a blockchain that is run by the people for the people, using time as a demarcation of ownership on the ledger, and doing that in a way that allows for us to do commerce, communication, data storage, data sharing, all of that in a very secure means using encryption and everything that, we know of, like kind of what cryptocurrencies and stuff do, but in a way that's only based on time. So it's literally based on nature. You can't buy your power into Quartal, unlike proof of work, where you can buy a bunch of computers to take over consensus, or like proof of stake, which is like what Ethereum's moved to, where it's just about the amount of coin, which is coming from your fiat blood money, bringing your fiat blood money into this quote unquote decentralized network. Quartal is not about that. Quartal is about literally everyone running a full node, which means you are basically whatever machine you want to use, whether it's one of these Raspberry Pis that you can get with actually this case right here is not from China. This case was 3D printed in the United States, but cool. Or on an old PC, an old MacBook, whatever, any computer, downloading software that's open source and free for anybody, and then just starting to run a node on the network, which does require an internet connection right now through a traditional ISP. That's the only connection that Quartal has to normie world. But then with that, you join the network, you prove yourself over time. And as you prove yourself over time, you basically gain authority. And in that, you share in the rewards of the network with everybody who's also putting in the effort and the time to support the network. And so with that, we have QChat, which allows us to do encrypted communications on the network already. It's been running for 2 years. You can create groups on there, and you can do total private groups and private communication that's fully encrypted, or you can have public communication on there. And it's within this parallel network that is not interfacing with the World Wide Web. It's not interfacing with the corporations that can censor. It's not interfacing with governments. It's completely separate. And I don't know of any other blockchain project really out there that is that radical in terms of its separation. So I think that's a very important thing to understand, what makes Quartal very unique and different.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And I want to go back to something you said that really is interesting when you think about how this pandemic's played out. So we all have our free rights, right? Our natural law, and I get to do anything I want as long as I'm not harming others. And the interesting thing that they were able to do in this particular scenario was because we had an invisible enemy, a virus, right? The invisible enemy that passed through the air, it now became, by me not wearing a mask or me not being jabbed, I'm now putting you at risk, right? So I think they did something extremely effective there to impact the natural law, because now they were able to twist it in a way that it was like I potentially was harming somebody by going out. And I even heard things about laws actually starting to be explored or even put into play, or maybe we'll call them mandates, around, okay, I've gone out, you get sick and die, that they could now come back and say it was because of me, right? So
that is so freaky. So do you guys know how our platform got known, Alpha Vedic?
No.
So we in way before the pandemic, or whatever you want to call it,
Pandemic works well. Yeah.
What scamdemic I call it. Way before that, Dr. Berlando, who is a 40 years working bioterrain practitioner, he calls himself a blue collar clinician, was literally, we came out and we're talking about this idea of what germ theory is.
Yeah.
Okay. And what viruses are or not. And actually, viruses have never been isolated. So actually, if you guys are familiar with this gentleman, like Andrew Kaufman.
Yeah, we just interviewed Tom Cowan, and we have Andrew Kaufman coming on soon.
So Andrew Kaufman found out about this through our podcast. We did a 2-part special called Pasteur versus Béchamp and the germ theory hoax. And he actually watched that and started to investigate this. And yep, you got it right there. Béchamp or Pasteur. I've got it right over here. So you're familiar with this. So I bring this up because this is what I love about why you are mentioning this, which is so important, is that it illustrates that they still have to play by natural law, right? And so they are using the framework of natural law to trick people into their own servitude and their own slavery, because out of lack of knowledge. And actually, lack of knowledge is no excuse in the eye of the law. So what we're dealing with is a lack of education. And when people can understand actually how nature really works, and that nature is not pathogenic in nature, nature does not, there's no pathogens in nature, okay? Nature has a specific divine, holistic, fractal connection with why everything happens, okay? And so when we understand that, and this is why I personally get triggered by someone like Zach Bush, who's talking about this sort of virome, and he's trying to make it sound like viruses are this holistically guided intelligence that are, because we've hurt the earth, are now coming back to punish us with illness in a weird way. That, and he doesn't put it in that slant. I'm sorry, Zach, puts it in a more like holistic sort of like, you know, like natural framework of this like intelligent virome. But how can you have a virome based around like something that mainstream science says doesn't even, it's not alive, but it's not dead. It's like a zombie. It's like an undead. It's like the undead vampiric particle or something. And so for me, that makes no sense. Nature just, and from what my observation of nature, it doesn't work that way. So, but my point of bringing this up is we have to have education. We have to have education so people can understand that there's logical fallacies in play, trying to say that because someone got sick because supposedly I had a pathogen that I gave them. Well, how are you logically supporting that claim against me? There is no logical support because they've never been able to actually prove or isolate a virus. So, but isn't that fascinating?
It is
how they've done that. It's really intriguing.
I subscribe to a number of different alternative media, and one of them has been submitting Freedom of Information Act requests, right? Very important tool because they need to produce the thing they're saying they have. So far, they've gone to 211 different health and science institutions around the world in 35 countries, including FDA, CDC, NIAID, Health Canada, the provincial health, right? So 35 different countries, over 211 submissions back to them already. Nowhere is there any record of SARS-CoV-2 isolation, purification, anything, anywhere, ever. Period.
Isn't it amazing that this thing could be allegedly infecting millions of people, and yet it's nowhere to be found?
Nowhere to be found. Isn't that interesting?
Kind of like how everything is in this fake public reality.
Yeah.
It's just a great example of everything in terms of what we've been sold on, from education, which is not education, it's brainwashing, it's enslavement. Religion, right? It's just controlled. It's not actual spirituality. It's like controlled top down, mandate of what your spirituality should be. The legal system, right, is actually a corporatized system from the crown, the bar system, which is actually not about your rights. It's about controlling you through corporate law or through, so everything's inverted, right? And I love that. What I love about the germ theory idea is that people can start to wake up to understanding this. It's like frees you from so much fear about what health is and what disease is and what reality is, and how nature is not out to get us, because that is, for me, the biggest crime. Is they like this whole bat thing and this cross species stuff, and we have to worry about nature is coming to kill us. No, it doesn't work that way. We work in tandem with nature. Nature is here to teach us and foster our spiritual growth. That's why I love the Ringing Cedars of Russia books, if you guys have ever read those, and Anastasia, because that's a great illustration of, she's like railing against the technocrats. She's calling them the technocrats in the 90s, and how this is what we're going to be facing, and that nature is everything. The greatest technology is us and what nature is. And so actually, we'll talk about Music in the Sky in a second, but we have Gabriel Miguel, who is the founder and president of the Anastasia Foundation coming to speak at the event about KINS domains.
Yes.
And about, very exciting to see that sort of awakening happening in the United States and what a KINS domain can do, and how that specifically is, like, she was talking about permaculture and food forests in the 90s before many people were. It's pretty cool.
We interviewed Gabriel, and so fascinating that neither Jim nor I, nor I think really anybody inside Food Forest Abundance corporately had ever heard of the Ringing Cedars of Russia, KINS domains, any of that, until we started down this path. And now we're getting hit with it all the time. And that 2.5 acre piece of property that is the KINS domain is perfect for what it is that Food Forest Abundance does. And we're exploring some sort of deeper collaboration with the Anastasia Foundation, where we actually may take on doing designs for most of the KINS domains, just to really help integrate those systems, not only in the individual KINS domain, but in the larger community as well. So
yes.
something great may come of that relationship. We're excited about it.
I love it. And Gabriel Miguel and his team are very awake to the lawful side of things. They're using land patents. We have some connections with the same people on that side of things. And actually just did a law workshop here at our farm, teaching people how to use trusts and PMAs and land patents to secure their land in a private way and their entire private life as a bridge out of the public, or what Marcia Ann, who did the workshop, calls the body politic, which is everything in the public that tries to control us. And so this is so exciting, because I'm seeing all these different elements, from what you guys are doing with the Food Forest Abundance, and to what people are doing on the law side, to the health side. We're all coming together, and we're all creating these wonderful solutions. And that's what Music in Sky is all about. It's about bringing everybody together to celebrate life, to celebrate creativity, and then to have all these workshops and talks. And also, it's really all about the people around the fires at night, talking and coming up with cool new solutions, and then continuing those conversations after the event as we build this community. So I'm just so pumped on the future, man. I just see, and Jim's that way too. I see so much happening every day that I have no doom and gloom. In fact, I just feel like all of this is just is happening for a reason, because this is the general evolution of consciousness that is happening right now. It has to happen. So
I love it. And it's something that was said at the beginning of this, with being a leader in the freedom movement. I loved hearing that word. And I think that's why we're seeing us all come together, is because it's almost like a fracture out of what was being called the truth movement, right? Where there was a lot of infighting. And the issue was, we didn't have the freedom to even know or explore what the truth is. So how can you have a truth movement without a freedom movement happening before it, you know? So it's a beautiful thing to see it happening.
Yeah, it is. And more than anything right now, we do need leadership, right? We need men and women to pick up their socks, pull up their big boy pants, big girl pants, and step into leading themselves, which will then inspire and lead others. But we need that today. There's no question about it, that the general population is going to follow whomever is talking the loudest to them, right? And they're using some very powerful tools of manipulation to ensure compliance is happening. And the major is fear, right? We know fear is such a powerful manipulator, because people, when they're afraid, will give up their rights in order to feel like they're safe again. And they don't even know they're doing it, right? They're giving things up. They have no idea it's even happening to them, because they're so in that programmed state and essentially asleep. Whereas as you begin to break that veil, or the chips in the armor start to peel off you, and you understand that you are being manipulated, you are enslaved, and you start to gather that there's a way out of this, but it starts with you making your own choices, where you spend your money, where you invest your time, where who you talk to, how many places are you giving over your rights because you're the product, right? How much are you listening to someone else on your own health, which is your responsibility, by the way, or on your own food production, which should be your responsibility, by the way, or your own money management, which should be your responsibility, right? Or your child and their education, which really is your responsibility, by the way, right? All those things that we hand over to these systems that they don't have your best interest in mind. They have their best interest in mind, right?
Of course.
And the leadership
the system set up that way.
Yeah.
The system set up, and that's just doing commerce. That's like, it's actually set up great in that way, because if you know how to use it to your own benefit, then it works great for you.
Yes.
But continue, Matt. I like where you're going.
Well, it's the remaining point there is that we need to be the leaders of our own lives. And we need to stop giving up our power to somebody else, because they never have your best interest in mind for the most part, right? Especially in these governments and these large corps at the moment. It's all to advance their own agenda, right? So getting back and establishing the plan for your life. What are your own life goals? What are the things you want for your family and for yourself and your community? And write those things down, because then you begin to build up a game plan around hope and striving for more. And as you do that, it puts you in a position now where you end up with this new internal fortitude and stronger position that you can then build upon to be a leader and inspire others just by your own personal actions. And as more and more of us do this every day, it has such a powerful, energetic pull that it brings new people into this who have felt it. They can feel something's wrong. There's no question about it. People can feel shit is not right, but they're afraid of this, right? I can't speak out against it because I'm now going against the narrative, the experts, and I'm not a doctor, or right? And they're just, they now start to pull themselves out of that because they're seeing other people doing it too. And there's a lot of us. There's no question. There are a lot of people who are now taking their own leadership into their own hands and getting out. And it's inspiring so many who just need that little bit of a nudge. And if you're doing it and they're close to you, they may grab on and start to follow, right? So all that to be said, we need to be strong. We need to believe in freedom and how valuable it is to be an individual with your own free thoughts, your own actions that produce greatness for your own life, and then inspiring others to follow in that path.
Well, one thing, the idea of sovereignty, right? We throw that around everywhere. What's it mean to be sovereign? Well, traditionally that means you're your own king or you're your own queen, right? And so when you're your own king or queen, you have it, it's all on you to make all the decisions for your realm, right? So you have a lot of responsibility. If you truly want to be sovereign, you actually have all the responsibility on your shoulders. And there takes a lot of bravery to do that. And I think the greatest sin, and I know the Bible talks about this in Revelations, is cowardice, right? So it's time to be brave. It's time to step up and time to be your own king. And when you do that, when you take on that responsibility, once again, then you are in control of your own realm. And then it's just all the benefits start just showing up everywhere you look. But go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, well, that's so beautifully put. And in the same spirit of what I was going to say, that when you really think about it, the fact that we've got this overarching massive system seeking to control us, and that what Matt just put so nicely is that every step of the way, every organization is actually fueled by us giving away our own power voluntarily. So you've got this energy extraction matrix, and you got to wonder, it's no wonder so many people feel like they've got no power these days. But think about if you just cut those ties, you stopped feeding your enemy and started keeping that food within your own spirit. How powerful are you truly to make those decisions? You are so much more powerful than anyone could ever believe or ever even realize. So yeah. I think when you frame it in that context, if each person just reclaims that power, how easily the system would topple over.
Oh, yeah.
You look at some of the major power suckers today, social media would probably be right near the top, right? And all the energy you give that and how much of that is leaving your body, putting you in a state of depression because you're comparing, right? The dopamine hit because you made a post and you get a like. you don't get the excitement unless you get the like. And if you don't get the like, you get down on yourself. And like, if you don't have the coolest picture at the right time with the right scenario and your girlfriend, and like, his life isn't as great because he didn't have a great picture. And then you got the guy with the great picture, but then you realize his life is shit in the background, right? And then you get the television. Those two things, we give so much energy to those two things, and they're just robbing us of life force.
Well, I think it's pretty crazy when you think about, Mike, what you said earlier, which is a really incredible insight. The fact that all of these things are based on commerce, right? They're all fueled by capitalism for the most part. And the fact that that is blood money. You think about the spiritual component, that currency that keeps it going. It's no wonder that you get organizations that claim to be against heart disease or that claim to be against cancer, and it's the Research Foundation, and yet cancer is their product. So they're making money. They're taking that money, they're extracting it from people, and that money itself is blood money. So I just think that's a crazy insight.
And how ironic they call it the war on cancer.
Yeah.
Right. It's literally war. It's funding the money. That's now the war. Everything's a war on something. We live in that, that's how the whole system's set up, is it's all about conflict. It's all about death. It's a death cult that runs, that side of things. Now, you guys brought up a lot of amazing stuff. I've been talking about out in the public a bit about this idea of, how we make decisions in our digital lives every day. It's important. So I got off Instagram in 2020. I left all Meta derived stuff like Meta, which is now Facebook. So off Facebook, we do have a Alpha Vedic account on there, and I did actually hop on Instagram just for this couple months to promote music in Sky. I against everything in my core being, but for me, I'm using it as a tool to get people to a place where they can learn about all this, and then I'm off. But I don't go through the feeds or anymore. I don't do that because that is designed, as you're saying, Matt, to literally strip you of your humanity, to play into your biology, and to essentially funnel you into a metaverse of jealousy and comparatives, digital fakery.
Mm-hmm.
So with Cordal, the whole idea is it's a sort of more slow technology concept, which I've been talking about which is this, I relate it to the slow food movement in France and stuff in the early 2000s, where the French were getting alarmed that McDonald's had come into France, and that corporate America and the corporate West was taking over their food systems, which were traditionally built around, equitable local farms and community food, right? Which was and so to slow down that like outgrowth of commercialization of their food systems, which is dehumanizing, and we know all the problems with commercialized, centralized factory farm, all that food, is they started the slow food movement, which was like getting back to the first principles of where you get our food. Well, that's what Cordal's about, is like the slow technology movement. In other words, getting back to how do we value our relationships in a digital place? So having a type of social media that is more about community and more about functional, in terms of how can we serve each other and how can we have solutions and stuff versus this sort of like pure, materialism and pure just sort of fakery that is the norm, what I call normie world, which is more about showing like your newest, coolest thing you bought, or like where you're at right there, or like it's all this like fake stuff about what makes your life cool, right? Where it's not sacred, it's not real. So figuring out how can we use a system like Cordal and build that out so you don't have those mechanisms in play to play off that sort of like dopamine fix of getting a like. So we don't have any of that built in. Now, that's not to say app builders in the future won't put that kind of stuff in. But as of now, it's really more about the core features of what it means to be human, which is having discussions about things that matter, about doing commerce for stuff in the real, for food, for medicine, and having uncensored, completely censor-proof dialogue about truth and reality. But yeah, every little decision we make. So for instance, I decided to go I tried to go full Linux. I tried to go full open source with my technology 2 years ago, because I was like, I'm done with the Apple cult. And now I'm on a brand new iMac again. I've got the new iPhone because it wasn't working for me as someone who's out in the public and editing videos and doing things on the fly to get my word out. Mac provided me with the ease and the flexibility to make great content and to get this stuff out. So I'm using that technology with the intent to get off it, but to get people aware of all this. So I'm kind of using it against itself. I think it has to do with consciousness and with intent. And if you're aware of what you're doing and what you're using, then I think you can start to navigate towards a more sovereign presence online. It's if you're conscious about it. So like I cut Netflix out of the family 2 years ago. We don't have demon flicks anymore, right? I've made these decisions. My kids don't have I have 2 sons, 9 and 11. They do not have smartphones.
Yes.
Okay. That's insane. Their friends in this little town we live in have smartphones. They're on TikTok all day, just getting brainwashed, and they don't have attention spans. They just are like zombies walking around.
Truly.
My children are playing in the dirt and building. They're building we homeschool. Right now, they've gotten into this big project of building a mountain bike course in our house and outside. So they're like figuring out how to build the best angles for ramps and to jump over stuff. So they're working on physics now and engineering while working their body and like how to make jumps and do things, and they're physical, right? And then of course I always have them in the garden, working in the garden. So how do we respect our relationship with each other and with ourselves with the digital technology? And I love this idea of the slow tech movement, slowing it down, backing off of it, but also having a consciousness about how we do interact with it, and we use it for the benefit of our community and towards freedom.
So beautiful to hear that you're raising your children that way, man.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do the same thing here. And it's funny because my son at 3 years old knew how to build a proper fire in a wood stove and stack the logs and do a nice top-down fire, when most adults don't even know how to do that kind of stuff. So you just think about that, how you are setting them up for major success and really saving the future of humanity just by raising your children right.
Well, I'll say one thing. It's funny. When like our family visit or something, and like, what are you gonna, what school are you gonna go to? I have colleges came up or something, and my youngest is like, I'm not going to college. They're like, what? You're not gonna go. He's like, no, I don't want to be brainwashed. And it's just hilarious. And not that I say don't go to college. It's about freedom. It's like I give him all the access to as much information as I know, and then allow their little minds, because trying to teach them logic and how to think for themselves, to then decide, like, maybe my oldest is going to go to college to study something of interest. That's fine. Like, I'm a big fan of Dana Martin and the unschooling concepts, right? Of like respecting our children, because we live in a society that does not respect children. We enslave children.
Yep.
We don't respect them as little bright consciousness sparks of like brightness, right?
Powerful little human beings.
Yeah, we crush that. And most parents do. You're to be, you shut up, go in the corner. You hear that all the time when parents speak to their kids, just when they're with their peers and stuff.
What's one that's crazy is shy. How many parents say shy? They tell their kids over and over and over and over and over and over and over again that their kid is shy. And when a kid walks into a room and meets a new person for the first time, that person that they're meeting, how often they say, oh, they're just being shy. Or the parent will jump in and go, they're just being shy. Like, we are programming our children to be shy. My wife and I never say that to our kids, ever, ever, ever. And we shut other people up who try to say it to our kids too. Because it is brutal how fast people default to saying that word.
Yeah.
And then
that's a great point. I got to remember that, because my older son, he is more reserved because he's hypersensitive.
Sure.
So it's not that he's shy. He's just taking in all the data.
Yeah.
And he's like processing all this stuff, and he's being very intentional with how he interacts and relates to people.
Yeah.
I highly recommend looking up Dr. Edith Ubuntu Chan for everyone who's watching this. If you haven't heard her Luminous Kids program that she's just released, and has a lot of luminaries on there, people that you probably interviewed as well.
Send us a link to that, please, and we'll put it in the show notes.
I will. It is one of the best content in terms, if you are trying to be a conscious parent right? So she has thought leaders like Charles Eisenstein on there, but then like our co-founder, Dr. Berlando, Dana Martin, who's like a pioneer in the unschooling movement. People that are also, Gabriel Miguel was on it. And so basically this idea that these children are luminous, that they're coming in to teach us, to remind us of who we are, and to have massive respect for them, because they're our future. And not only are they future, but they're literally here to prop us up and get us out of our own brainwashing. And it's just it's an amazing workshop, like online thing. So I'll send you guys the link for it.
Yeah, please do. And then just a quick pointless aside, when you brought up France and the McDonald's, it made me immediately think of Pulp Fiction and the Royale with cheese.
I was just literally telling my kids, because my youngest son is like a cinephile like me. I went to film school and worked in Hollywood for 10 years.
Okay.
And so I'm a big cinephile and I love old cinema. And I was kind of I was a Tarantino fan, of course, growing up in the 90s, and saw that twice in the theater, even though I look back now at Tarantino's work and I'm like, I mean, I love it as a filmmaker, but it's a little hardcore normie for me, like the values in those films, but I was explaining what a tracking shot is and explaining that dialogue there to my kids literally yesterday. So that's hilarious. The synchronicities here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't watch movies anymore, period. New movies. I just no.
Garbage.
Such garbage.
Actually, there was a recent film I watched on, because I do still have Amazon Prime, even though I'm wondering about that. And then I also have the Criterion Collection app, which is really interesting because it's got all the really old school films and stuff. But because the idea of the film is going back to how we started with creativity. It is an auteur-derived art form that is driven by a singular consciousness, but then is collaborative, where all these people come together to make this vision come together, right, in a piece of art. And that really is a great model for how community can work, and how, so I worked on films. I love being on set on a lot of indie stuff. I kind of worked on the fringes of Hollywood. I didn't work for any mainstream stuff because I was too radical. But that being said, that there is a film that came out recently about the Thai soccer kids that got stuck in that cave. You remember that international story?
Yep.
And Vito Morgeson's in it. And it's like these divers that come to figure out how to rescue them and how they're like somehow survive. Like that film actually was empowering. I randomly am like, I'll try it. And I was pleasantly surprised by that film. I highly recommend it. As an actual film you can watch and not be triggered, and it's not all woke and all that nonsense. But yeah, almost everything is now made to enslave and brainwash and get us down into the metaverse for sure.
For me, there's that part, and then there's also the learning part. I just feel it's so much more valuable to my life and my time if I'm learning from whatever it is that I'm doing. So I've just chose to stay away.
I appreciate that, man. Time is of the essence. I do enjoy watching older films here and there. I believe there's a lot that can be gained from watching them. But and also I feel like we're considering starting a film club for my children's through their chart. So we're homeschooling, but they are connected through a charter school in town to do clubs and sports and all of that. So it's a beautiful relationship so that they can have some community, because we are so remote up here. There's not a lot of children up where we live. And so I'm considering starting a movie club so that children can actually work on their ability to focus on a narrative. Because what we're facing right now, due to TikTok culture and everything, is this kids now don't have the ability to hold their attention on anything longer than 15, 30 seconds. So when we were kids, for me, it was like a great reward to watch a film, right? It was like a special treat. Now you talk to kids that are like 7, 8, 9, hey, you're going to watch a 2-hour movie. They're like, no. Yeah. And so that is freaky to me. So to be able to foster the attention span to get through a film and understand a 3-act narrative and that traditional hero's journey, because film is built on that classicism it goes back to the Greek narrative structure of a hero going through the arc of the hero's journey, which represents, in my mind, all of our real life journeys. So I think that's an amazing art form that I think has a lot of value if it's done appropriately. So if you look at like independent film and the auteur-derived films of the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. There's a lot of great art form that is questioning all aspects of society and what it means to be a man or woman and what it means to be living, all these philosophical questions through a visual medium. So I do believe there's great value to film, and especially with children these days that can't even hold their attention for longer than 15 seconds.
It is interesting how the creators of this content know exactly what they're doing. You see that not only are, especially what's aimed at children, the segments getting shorter and shorter. They want kids watching little 5-minute things instead of, like you said, something that's 2 hours long. But even the way that scenes are filmed, how it never holds a shot for more than a couple seconds. It flip flops back and forth. And, just what is that doing to their mind? You're not able to just focus on one thing that's going on.
For children, something I've recently learned is about ensuring that the background is not moving as well, right? Because the more things in a scene that are moving, the more distraction overall. So if you are ever going to put a child in front of something to watch, maybe you need a little bit of a break, you got to carefully look at what are all the things that are happening in said show. Is it a real person, or are you going with cartoon? Is it a real person doing something where the background is moving, but it's only because they're moving? Or is it, right, the cartoon with the background's doing a whole bunch of crazy shit, foreground's doing a whole bunch of stuff, then it's flipping from scene to scene to scene to scene to scene? That will aid in their inability to concentrate.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious when you look at the Disney app, right? And like all of the new content coming out, it's just built to neurologically override their ability to sort of know themselves.
Yeah.
Know thyself, right?
Yeah.
Because it's going back to the idea of what schools were set up. It's like they're just creating commodities. And then those commodities will have a new sort of role to play in the metaverse, in this new digital hellscape that they're creating.
Isn't that interesting? Creating the commodities. And then when you actually understand what the three of us here understand about your birth certificate registering you with the corporation, right? We already were the commodity, right? And now, obviously, they've taken it so many steps further to strengthen that whole narrative. But we've already, if we're in that system, we already are the commodity that they get to, they borrow money against us, right? Based on what they feel like you'll earn, or we're all assigned a dollar value, probably all around the same one, but they can borrow based on what will be productive years of our life. That's how they borrow from the central bank, from my understanding anyways.
It's true. And we've contracted with them to do that. So whether we know it or not, our parents contracted us to do that. And for that, we get benefits and we get certain privileges, right? But now they're extending that because they've melted the planet, the physical resources so much. They know in order for the Ponzi scheme to keep going, they now have to extend that into a digital simulacrum. And then that's infinite because that's digital. So they can just now harvest the digital hellscape forever. And so that is what we're up against right now. And that's why something like Chordal is so important, because we can bring the sovereignty back into the digital with that, because we are in full control over our digital footprint. Sorry, my dogs are going nuts right now. And then we can use that towards moving back into real community grounded systems in the real, right? And develop technologies by getting off fiat, and getting off the patent honey trap system and the public system, that we can get free energy, we can get all these things we were supposed to have, so that we can then become, like Anastasia says, like the true man, and become psychic and get trust back and all that. And then we won't need the zeros and ones technology anymore. We will move past that. We'll go back to the real technology, which is us, right? And then as we're psychic and connected, all the fear's gone, all the lies are gone, the control's gone, and heaven on earth and all that stuff. So that is what Chordal is trying to do, is just provide that infrastructure in the private so that we can do commerce and communication with each other, respecting the individual in the private, and completely leaving this old slave system.
What I would add for the listeners at home who maybe don't believe it's too far-fetched of an idea that they want to get everybody sucked into this simulacrum, as you put it, this digital thing that they want to suck your biology into, I would encourage you to look at examples such as the Microsoft 666 patent about tying cryptocurrencies to human activity, or the recent executive order from the Biden administration that is all about transhumanism and a quote unquote bioeconomy setting that up. So it's definitely the goals. They're not shy about putting it out there that this is where they want to take us. So,
and if
yeah,
people
fair point.
Don't trust it or trust what we're saying, go take a look. The information is available. You can verify everything we're talking about.
And the information has to be available because we live in a free will universe, and they have to put the offers out there. We have to tacitly accept them in some way.
Yeah.
So because that is the universal nature of the law. It's a free will universe, and they understand that. And they just, basically they use ignorance, they use greed, they use fear and all that for us to opt in to all that. So yeah, you're right on. They understand the power of the truth. The greatest technology on this planet is us, right? And so if they can co-opt and separate our spirit from that, our bodies, and put this like machine interface in, then it's kind of game over. So obviously the nanotech, all of that, the graphene and all that, the black goo we've been talking about for, in my circles for 15 years, the black goo is now there. The black goo is represented in the Lady Gaga music video, that freaky one, and these other ones where you see it morphing and stuff. They're telling you this is what they're doing, right? So that's why they have these here tracking and tracing us. That's why I don't take this really much with me unless I'm deciding I'm going to use this as a camera or whatever. I just leave it somewhere else, because this thing is this is the black goo machine that's going to take us down that thing. So every decision every day, I will say this though, people, don't be so hard on yourself. Because when you take this information in, it's like, in our community, a lot of people are like, okay, I got to go start a food forest. I got to do a status correction. I got to open a trust. I got to figure out, I got to go buy a bunch of gold and silver. I got to like cut all this off. There's so much to do. I'm overwhelmed. It's like, community, first of all, find your community of people that are into this stuff. Take it day by day. Take a breath. Follow your intuition and know that you are all powerful. And so, no, I'm a technologist that works in decentralized technology, and I have the newest iPhone. So my point of this is, don't freak out and think you have to do all this overnight. This is a slow process towards sovereignty. And it's really important to understand that.
It's like the slow food movement.
Exactly.
Mike, let's go into your music festival and your gathering of the Soul Family. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Music in Sky, what the plans are for this year, why you're so excited about it, where it's taking place, everything. Fill us in.
So Music in Sky is sort of the greatest, manifestation of all of my skill sets. I came to this realization on the first one. So we were inspired to do Music in Sky in 2020 during the heart of the lockdowns in California, when Governor Newsom was saying that nobody can meet up and nobody can dance in public and express themselves. So I've been an underground house DJ for 20 years, throwing events for 20 years. That's like one of my funnest, greatest creative expressions is DJing.
I see your turntables beside you there and behind you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So and so my friends too, they're all involved in the scene, going to Burning Man and doing all those things. And when we were told we're not allowed to do that, well, the rebel in us were like, oh, no, we're definitely going to do that. So we created Music in Sky as sort of a freedom celebration event for those who wanted to buck the system and come out and celebrate life, celebrate truth and freedom and love through art and dance and, all that good stuff. But then on top of that, I was brought in to bring in like the workshops and people to come and talk about all these important topics so we can have the knowledge and wisdom, because ignorance is not an excuse, right? In the eye of the law. So, I brought in, people to talk about germ theory and talk about stuff like New German medicine and talk about law and talk about equity and talk about spirituality and all these different things. And then on top of that, we did all the body stuff. So ice baths and breath work and meditation and yoga. And then of course the music side. And we have a an art gallery and all that, and it's fully family friendly. So started in 2020 in Joshua Tree. Then we did 2021 4th of July weekend in Western Sierras, which was an amazing event. We did an entire, on 4th of July, we did a notice of liability to the governor. Everybody signed. It was a massive event. It was 700 people at that event. Lena Poo led that specific thing. We had like a governor who was running for governor. Renette Seenum was there. David Avocado Wolf spoke. Like a lot of big names in the freedom scene were there. And so that is now sprouted into this year, which is happening in Cuyama Valley at this beautiful location. It's a full off-grid sort of venue. It's a little bit more upscale than the past 2 years. We've learned that we'd rather go this route and not do it all ourselves. So this venue is amazing. It provides a lot of the infrastructure. There's like a full heated pool there, beautiful bathrooms, and just very set up well. So it's very comfortable. Farm to table food that's included with your ticket. And so with this, we have a family camp, we have the kids stage, then we have all sorts of different sections. And we've kind of getting away from this idea of like even sitting and looking at someone talk. Yes, we do have talks and stuff, but it's more about integration. It's more about collaboration. This year and now moving forward, it's more like in that permaculture mindset of us all working together in cohesion and stacking systems together. And so everybody's a collaborator. Everybody that comes has a role to play. There is no like experts we have thought leaders and we have luminaries that are there like Jim Gale, who's coming to talk. But we also have open forums and around the fire at night where we pass the mic, where everybody gets a chance to shine and collaborate and bring your wisdom to the event. So I think I love where it's going. We're also decentralizing it in terms of we're launching our new platform in the next couple of days, our community platform, which is all an open source platform that is value for value. So you spend what you want per month or year to come in. We do have it set at $1 minimum, but basically you decide what the value is of the community to come in, and that has full forums and groups and discussion, and you can friend each other and direct message each other. And then we'll be doing a workshop. If you're looking to do a Music in Sky in your area, we will train you to become a producer, and then you can throw a Music in Sky in your area. So we're decentralizing it across the world. Our vision to see Music in Skies popping up everywhere, all over the planet. Just like you guys are doing with Food Forest Abundance. So because we found that it's such a powerful, powerful thing to come together and celebrate creativity based around freedom. I have met so many lifelong friends now. I've had people I've met at Music in Sky literally move up to where I am and start permaculture farms and start homesteads and all this just based off the inspiration they got by going to our events.
What a powerful stack, adding learning and action on top of recreation and expression. The fact that you're getting together, people are being drawn in, and yet you're funneling that energy into an action such as a notice of liability. That's epic. That's awesome. I love hearing that.
Yeah, and it's very much about health too. So we try to get everybody in the ice bath at least once. Some people won't do it, but that's a big central theme is getting in the ice bath, the Wim Hof kind of stuff, a lot of breath work, a lot of like self-discovery, shadow work, dealing with traumas. Because a lot of our problems we have in our society is people have never gone through their traumas. Having rites of passage in the West, we don't have rites of passage into manhood or womanhood. So we have different elements of that. We have a sweat lodge. We have different things where people go through heavy breath work. We do a lead holotropic breath work with Eric Casano, which is a rite of passage if you've ever done that. It's an 1.5-hour session where you're literally like going through a psychedelic experience without psychedelics. Yes, there's a lot of a personal growth that goes on at this event. And also it's all about community. So it's all about like having the support of your brothers and sisters there. If you're going through some stuff, to be there to hug you and to help you through that. I don't hug as much anywhere in my years as I do at Music in Sky. It's like hugs, a lot of deep conversations. But yeah, it's just, there's nothing else like it. There's no event else like it in the world that I've been to. And I've been to a lot of festivals.
This definitely sounds like an event for our audience. 100%. And when is it taking place again? Sorry.
So it's taking place October 13th through the 16th. So Thursday through Sunday next month, or depending when this comes out, might be this month. And it's in Cuyama Valley. It's about an hour northeast of Ojai, California. So it's in Central California. It's in a beautiful location. We'll be doing other like workshops there too. Like I don't know if you guys are familiar with Orgonite and Orgone, but energy. But Mitch, the Orgone donor, is donating basically 2 pieces of Orgonite to every attendee. So you'll get it in your gift bag, a puck and an earth pipe. And the idea is as people leave the event, we want to basically install these and bus towers and install them all the way out, because the Central Valley of California, which is the breadbasket of America and the world, has been heavily targeted and attacked for decades to create fake droughts and ruin that land, chemtrailing and all that stuff. And we found that actually using Orgone energy, it was like scalar wave technology, right? It actually cleanses. It's this Wilhelm Reich technology that cleanses that. So that's part of our, like, just one element of this weekend is that we'll be teaching people about Orgonite, and we'll be doing some local gifting sessions each day where we're going to go out on little expeditions, because this is like in a kind of an agricultural basin where the event's taking place. And so, yeah, education and action based around love, harmony, and freedom of expression and creativity is what Music in Sky is all about.
Beautiful. And what's the website for that?
musicinsky.com.
musicinsky.com. We'll make sure that's in the show notes.
And also, you get a $50 off discount if you put in Food Forest 50 in the coupon thing there on checkout. So you can get $50 off each ticket by using that discount code. And your ticket does include brunch and dinner and snacks every day. It's all farm to table. There's a chef on site who crushes it. It's an amazing spread. And yeah, it's pretty awesome times. I hope you guys can make it out. It's a choose your own adventure type event too. So there's something for everybody there.
Love it. Thanks for giving our audience a discount. Again, everybody, it's musicinsky.com. And if you use the coupon code FoodForest50 at checkout, you'll save $50 on each ticket. Mike, man, so much going on in your world, and you're doing so much to help with this freedom movement, being a leader in your own way. Any closing thoughts you want to share with the audience? Because this has been an incredibly valuable episode. I want to hear any last thoughts you have.
I mean, the only thing I'll say is find your passion and go for it, and do it in service to yourself and to your fellow men and women in your community. And the abundance will come flowing in like you've never dreamed of. And understanding, like, our thoughts are what create our reality. So do some work on imagining what that life's going to look like, and really believe in that, and it will happen. So, whether that be journaling or some creative writing, or even creating a vision board or any of that kind of stuff, that stuff works, because our reality literally comes out of our creative thoughts. We manifest our reality. So Jim's a big fan of this, I know. So yeah, really go for it. The time is now. The time is now to go for your dreams on what your passions are, what your creative desires are. Leave that 9 to 5, or take the steps to do that, and find your creative will to do that, because that is what's going to pull us out of this mess.
And I'll stack on what you're saying there, because that is such a great way to end this episode. And it ties right back to the beginning about unlocking that creativity in yourself. When you're doing this exercise that he's talking about here, envisioning the life that you would love to create for yourself, really do your best to remove all the prejudgment filters and you're quick to go, this isn't possible for me, or I can't do that, or whatever it is. Just write it down. Just put it down on paper.
Put it down. Because
if you do that, you'll start to break those barriers down. And it doesn't need to be perfect. It's not about that. It's about getting those creative juices flowing to the unlimited possibilities that are available for you and everyone around you. So, Mike, man, incredible to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your wisdom. It's been an incredibly valuable conversation. Our audience is going to get tremendous value from this. So thank you again for making time to get on here today.
My pleasure, guys. And I really just want to say thank you to your, what you guys are doing over there. I can't think of a more important mission right now to provide food security and, inspire people to grow their own food, something that I'm very passionate about. And that's an amazing creative thing you can do every day in the garden. I actually end every podcast, every Alpha Cast with get your hands dirty in the dirt, go plant something, go for a hike, go barefoot. Walking barefoot in the dirt, because Mother Nature is our best teacher. And if you just give yourself to her a little bit every day, your life will start to change in miraculous ways.
Fantastic. And Michael Hoffman, thanks for joining us today. Any final thoughts from you?
No, it was a pleasure to join and to meet you, Mike. I mean, to meet another kindred spirit, outlier, independent thinker with the courage to not only make the change in your own life, but to be open about it and to help inspire and help others make changes in their own lives. That is exactly what we need, to not just live it yourself, to learn it, live it, and teach it, share that with others. So yeah, love everything that you're doing. And I've got to say, I've got massive inspiration to get all of our Freedom Farm Academies set up with Chordal nodes, show off what that's all about. Let's set it up. Let's get it going.
And before we wrap up, I just had this inspiration to say to everybody out there, now is the time to embrace your courage. Be brave. Embrace your courage, friends. It is time to lead the world to a better way. Freedom is here for all of us. Unlock that courage. Stand strong.
You are worthy. You deserve it.
Thank you again for joining us on another incredible episode of the Jim Gale Show. Please remember to like, subscribe, follow along, share this with your friends. If you're finding value from our show, we're doing our best every week to bring you some great content and value with incredible people out there. So please tell the world, let us know. We'd love to hear from you as well. So if you have any feedback for us, please let us know. You can follow us on YouTube and Unite and Apple and Spotify and any place the podcasts are available today. We're there. And again, thank you so much for tuning in. Have an amazing day.
Thank you for tuning into the show. You can check out more episodes on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and your favorite podcast apps. Check out our show notes for any websites linked to this episode, including where to connect with us on social media.
We appreciate you dropping by today. Remember to like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you'll be updated with each episode.
And visit us at thejimgaleshow.com to check out all of our exclusive content. We appreciate you dropping by.